Okay, so the very first thing you want to do is you just want to give this an overall visual check to make sure that you have the actual right parts. I ended up with the wrong parts the other day, and luckily I didn't start actually changing it before I found that out. So just give it a quick look, make sure that everything looks right. Make sure that you've got, like mine was a dead giveaway because I need 5 holes to bolt this on and I had 6 on the other sprocket. So just give it a quick visual to make sure that your parts look correct, and then you can start. Okay, so the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the brake caliper off just to get it up out of the way. And then just bungee this up. Take this cotter pin out. And then what you want to do is take off this front sprocket cover. And then go ahead and take this guy off with these 2 bolts, because you want to get at this nut right in here. Now you'll notice on this washer that's behind that nut, you'll have one spot that's been bent flat, and that's so that that nut can't spin. It holds that nut in place. You'll have to bend that back up flat so you can get this nut loose. Now once you've got that done, make sure that it's in neutral so that the rear wheel can spin freely, because you're going to break that nut loose and you don't want to put any stress on the transmission. So you need to brace this back tire by putting something through right here. I'm just using a metal pipe with some pipe insulation around it, but you can use a dowel, you can use a metal pipe with a rag wrapped around it. I mean, anything to keep from damaging the wheel. So with that in place, put your 32mm socket on the front. Now you can take that off now, or you can take it off later. I just like to make sure that it's good and loose. Yeah, it's definitely loose. And now you can take this out. Now you can undo the bolt that's on the axle, and then loosen these up on both sides. You want these backed out quite a ways, so just keep pushing the tire forward as you go until you basically run out of room on the front. And then that should be far enough. Okay, so now we got to get the chain off. Now you'll notice that I actually have 2 master links right here, which is a story I'll tell in a minute. Now if you have a master link that just clips off, that'll be real easy to take off. But these are riveted on and are a little bit different. So one way to get this chain off of here is to just grind off really any of the pins. It doesn't have to be your master links, just any of them. But one thing you want to make sure of is you want to grind so the sparks go either out that way or down, either one, so that you're not throwing sparks onto the bike. Then you can use your chain breaker to push that pin out of there. Now just rotate your tire and your chain will fall off. Now this is interesting because this is the first chain that I've ever got that is actually continuous. It's not open-ended on one. So if your chain is like this, you'll have to use the exact same technique of just breaking the other chain and do it on this chain. But for starters, just pull one pin out. And so now you basically count and make sure that there's the same number of links as your old chain. And this one actually looks like it's going to work out just perfect. Remember, this one will get ground off and replaced by the master link. So now that your chain is off, go ahead and take your back axle out. And remember where all this stuff goes. That goes in there just like that. The other side has this bracket, and it's got this little shim piece on here that you don't want to lose. You can keep it on there, but just make sure that doesn't go flying somewhere or get lost somewhere. And then the other side has a small piece that's just like this side, only it's a little bit smaller. Now we'll go ahead and take our sprocket off. Now the reason why my chain had 2 master links in it was because I had dropped down 2 teeth in the rear sprocket. When I went to change it again, I counted the same amount of links. I didn't notice that I was actually going back up the 2 links with a stock sprocket. I was 2 links short. And that's kind of why I was talking about just, giving it a good visual inspection when you start. Just so you can see if those things kind of pop out and catch your attention. Because I know I won't do that again. So off with the old, on with the new. That rear sprocket actually has quite a bit of life left in it. Doesn't actually look too bad, really. Now the front one, on the other hand, you can definitely see a difference. But with this being a 15 tooth and the rear being a 47, this is turning a little more than 3 times for every one that the rear is turning. So it makes sense that this would be the one that wears out first. Put the new one on. Put our washer back on. Sorry guys, I'm having to hold the tablet here. You don't have to tighten it quite yet. I don't think I got it on the other camera, but I did torque these down to 43.5 pounds. Speed your new chain up. Around the front sprocket. All the way around. And I like to put that link in right about up top there. So now you go ahead and take the back of the master link here. Make sure it's got the 2 little O-rings on there. And slide it in the back there. And you have 2 more little O-rings here. Then you've got your plate here. Just push that on there as hard as you can, see if you can get it to stay. Now these can be tricky to get started. Try to be patient and just continue working with it. Usually just giving it just like a small little initial squeeze and get that to set. Just work it real slow. If you feel like giving it a really good turn, don't do it. Just fight that urge to do that. Because every time you tighten this up and loosen it, it doesn't bounce back. Every time you tighten it a little bit, you're actually pushing it on just a little bit further. Now when you start getting close, use a set of calipers if you have them, and check a spot on the chain. Check a couple of them and get yourself a good number to go with. Now if you don't have calipers, just eyeball it the best that you can and be really picky. So now you'll use the other tip that comes with your chain breaker kit. Okay, now this is the exact same story. This is a slow process. You do it little bits at a time. Don't rush it. Now a tip that I learned from Del Boy's Garage, he did a video, a very in-depth video on this. If you take the end of this, if you keep taking it out, and just set it in here. Because you'll see there's a flat ring around the top of here. You set that in there and that flat ring touches on the edges, then it's set. See, these ones don't do that. You probably can't see that in the camera at all, but you'd be able to see it with your eye. But just keep tightening it down until it hits that flat edge right there. Okay, so I've got this to where that's basically bottomed out in there, and it's about as good as I'm going to get it. So now you can go ahead and start snugging these up. Don't make them too tight because we'll use those to adjust the chain. But just go back and forth between either side and just get them snugged up. Now if you did happen to put it in gear somewhere in between there, put it back into neutral. I put it in gear so that when I was setting these it wasn't moving around. So I'm going to put it back into neutral so that this can spin freely. So we got our foam bar, but this time we're going to go down under here with it. Now I can put this back on. So now you just need to set your chain tension, which is basically an inch. Looks like the happy medium. So once you get your chain tension set, make sure that you've got the same distance here as on the other side so that your back tire is straight. I like to use a caliper like that and then check both sides, make sure that they're spot on. And then this nut is 72.5 pounds. Then go ahead and put in your new cotter pin. And then last, put the brake caliper back on the way it goes. So all that's left is to just give it a good inspection, make sure you didn't miss anything, skip any steps or anything like that. If you watch another video, you're good to go.